Good time.
And hello to the delicious recipe here on UPRN 107.7 FM New Orleans Talk Radio. If you're checking us out on YouTube, you can check us out on the UFO Paranormal Radio channel, and I think that's the one that's going there. We're also on Twitch and wherever else their stuff is there. Laura, you know where all the other places are there too. But I
I
also have
do. And it's all tagged in my post that I share delicious recipe on every social media platform, even LinkedIn today. So people can find us. But they need to come listen over here because then we can interact in the chat with them.
That's
Right?
correct. Yep. That's the thing there is that even though we're doing this on StreamYard, and I apologize if I don't see you in the chat there, or if I miss you in the chat. I'm not that I'm avoiding you. Sometimes I don't get to that. And then, like you said, if you have a message after the show and stuff like that, there is the iCar site there that you can message the station there. So. That's about it. So I have on here tonight, I have Lorilei from the Angel Rock once again, and I called this one Buffet for Two. So there's a whole bunch of different things on the buffet. I haven't been, well, for a while, I haven't been watching the news. I was trying to keep out of the COVID stuff, out of the part about government stuff, everything that was going on. I just needed a break from it for a while. So the last few days, I've sort of been going back into it, checking out all my independent news channels that I've been watching, and checking out mainstream media news, seeing how that contradicts or goes along with different stories there, and seeing how the world has changed in really 2 weeks of sort of unplugging from the news, and really nothing much has changed. But some new events have sort of happened, and actually, there's one you just told me there today, Laura Lee, about what happened in Canada with Parliament. If you want to relay that little story.
Sure. Well, say hi to everybody. We're going to talk in code tonight because, as our wonderful fearless leader and owner of UPRN, Joe Montaldo, we always give him a shout out. I don't know how he does what he does. He does a full time job, then he comes home and produces all of us. He makes our job look easy, and it is. We just get to talk. He does all the hard work. Plus, he's a host of many different shows of his own, UFO Undercover, The Gray Zone. So make sure you check all those out. So, because we want to be careful, because we are, I guess, broadcasting on our newer YouTube channel. So, if you hear us speak in code, you'll understand what that means. But what happened in Canada, and we've been talking a little bit about this on Friday nights, is we are under severe lockdown in Ontario, where Dell and I live. And you can't buy anything except groceries, a few pharmaceutical things. You can't even buy most baby items. So what happens is you have to shop online. We've talked about this, Dell and I, in a different show. Even Amazon Prime, some things were going on 8, 10 weeks. Tomorrow, some things are supposed to finally come. Okay, so what happened was this started right after Easter week and this severe lockdown, and we weren't even this severely locked down at the beginning of all of this. So it was only supposed to be 4 weeks. Then it got extended to 6 weeks. Then it was supposed to end May the 20th. Yesterday, there was a parliament meeting. So, for those of you maybe in different governments or different countries in the US, it would be like, I guess, a federal Congress meeting within your state, or depending on where you are. There was supposed to be a full caucus or full membership. 66 members of our provincial parliament were not there. So they decided to hold a vote to see whether or not they could continue these sanctions against Ontarians till the end of December. And because we didn't have a full membership there, it was passed. So what this means is they're talking about a possible reopening, but our fearless leader, as I call him, Slug Ford, has the power now to continue this indefinitely to the end of December, should he so desires, and nobody will stop him. That's basically what it is, right? Did I miss anything?
No, that about sums that part up there. And this is what gets so crazy about what goes on here in Canada. And a lot of it's not really covered on world news. Like it's been mentioned a few times there with I think Fox had mentioned some parts about the lockdown and how this totalitarian government has sort of single-handedly crippled, I guess, the population of Canada, and making rules that are what they deem to be just, I guess, without taking into account to population densities, and because, like I've said before, here is that Northern Ontario population compared to Southern Ontario is greatly different. Like they're in the millions and millions of people in Southern Ontario, and I think Northern Ontario accounts for about 780,000 people, but with twice the amount of area in that. So it really seems to be odd. And also with other things that seem to be going on is our numbers don't seem to be adding up, and they're making more stricter regulations, I guess, without the possible facts. And I'm not sure how they want to go and account for these numbers on the rise and everything like that. But it seems to be a very an odd situation, and a lot of people, like you had said there before, are pretty much asleep to what's going on, and are just allowing it to accept it, right?
Well, yeah, but what's happening is with this standard of test, the I'll say slowly, CR test that they're using, there's a standard set out by the CDC and the World Health Organization at what level you're supposed to consider a positive. Well, our darling Canada has decided to make it higher, meaning that there's more revolutions when it's being spun in a lab. So basically, what they've based their standard on for a positive case, all you were getting left over in a sample is junk that's left over that's been spun out. There's absolutely no illness causing agents, we'll say, within the sample. Never mind the fact that the developer of this test has come straight forward out. I've watched many videos by him. This test was never, ever designed to be a diagnostic tool. And then today, and this, I did see this about a month and a half ago, but it was released by Slovakia, who did a research study and actually looked at this particular swab under microscopic conditions as well as tested what was in it. And lo and behold, there is lithium, which is used as an anti-anxietal agent as well as to treat certain conditions such as bipolar or many of those mental health issues. That was found within this particular the swab. And when you look at it microscopically, and they do compare it compared to a normal cotton swab that you would use for in the medical field. I'm also a nurse, so we use swabs for many things to get cultures to check for infection. This particular swab that we're using is being jammed all the way up into the nasal cavity, and they're swabbing the base at the I always get this name wrong, the cubiform bone, I want to say. So it's a very thin plate of bone between your nasal cavity and the base of your brain. Well, what they're finding is that the fibers are actually little microscopic plastic tubules that are breaking off that contain the lithium as well as the DARPA hydrogel. And you can actually see the nanobots. But the other part that's very concerning is as they left this for 24 hours, fractal patterns started to form, meaning almost like geographic shapes. They left it another 48 hours, and they were actually starting to form pyramid shapes. This does not happen with a cotton swab, folks. Never mind the fact that we should all be asking, what the heck is lithium doing in a swab?
Yeah, that's a good point there.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to just mention something. I watched this yesterday, and hopefully I get this all right here. It was on it's a YouTube channel. It's called the Last American Vagabond, and it
Mm-hmm.
was an interview with Dr. Hodkinson interview, and it's about an hour and 20 minutes. I just watched this the other day. I think it was yesterday, anyways, and he's a Cambridge from the UK doctor that did all of his work here in Canada, Vancouver, and he holds a whole list of titles of boards and committees that he's been on. taught at, I think it was in Saskatchewan medical school there, and he's a pathologist as well. And he knows all the characters involved. He knows this Dr. Fauci. He knows all about PCR tests, and he explains this all very well. And he explains this whole thing about the PCR test, about doing this, using this as a sampling method to test for stuff. And he says to properly get a sample is you have to go in and get a diagnostic test in the hospital. That's where you get it done. You don't get it done with these little swab things here because they can give you false positives. You don't know what there's a whole bunch of problems that can occur from it. They don't really get anything because all it's giving you is a light that hey, this is positive. You don't know exactly what because there is a bunch of different test samples that are in there that'll go off and given this light. But he goes through this all. I advise anybody that wants to check out this more because he's a straight from the hip shooter, straight ahead, and he calls this all out about all the stuff that was done in this, and it goes into this whole part about hindsight is 2020, yes, but they were also talking about this at the beginning about not shutting down and what this disease can be, and he's not anti-vax and he's not pro-vax either. He is pro-medicine and pro health, and he explains all this stuff and he explains about labs. He's worked in labs. He's testing stuff. He explains everything that's going on. Where this could have came out of Baltimore, or I think it out of Fort. Not, I don't want to say Fort Bragg, or something, Maryland, and the whole thing about the testing for these gain of function viruses, which was the COVID and stuff like that, and the doctors that were working in the states, also working in Wuhan as well. And this goes back to before the the Army Navy games that took place in Wuhan as well. And there's a lot of questions out there that haven't been answered, and it's well worth it to check it out. If you check it out after this show, to go and to check that one out there and listen to it. And there's no BS in it involved in it.
No, I think that's a great idea. And just to add on to that, Dell, is I was just on, and I'm going to give a shout out to it to People for People Radio. It's People for People. .ning.com, and I was on Dr. Rita Labo and Ralph Fusatola's show, Unmasked Crusaders, and we were talking about this with the fact, and I know this as well as being a nurse, that you don't need to jam anything up anybody's nose to get a sample from the mucosa or the lining of anything like your nose, your mouth. A simple swab of the cheek contains enough DNA cells. It'll also contain any infectious agent that you're looking for. So you are right about this, that this test, it was never designed to be a diagnostic tool. It can't differentiate between the agent, we'll call, that has caused all this. It can't differentiate between pneumonia, inflammation, bronchitis, RSV. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So my point is here, why are we using this? Why are we finding these things that are in here when we're talking about all these increased cases? And I think that that's what's getting missed in the mainstream media, is they're reporting all these massive numbers, not realizing that there are people that are going with no symptoms to go have tests multiple times a week for in order to continue their employment, and they're getting positive tests and they don't have any symptoms. Well, if you've got some inflammation going on and you have a positive test, never mind with the standard that we've set for this. And then there's all this information coming out about all these variants and on and on and on. I think we have to be very judicious and we have to question everything, whether it fits the narrative, whether it fits our belief system. You were one of the people that actually convinced me of this, because when this all started, I remember you were watching the mainstream media and I said to you, why are you watching this garbage? And you had a very important point that you made, was we need to watch everything to see what all the information is, because we're even finding, and there's been a few articles and videos I've watched on this, where sometimes even within the narrative that we believed isn't telling us the truth, there's a little kernel of truth hidden amongst all the lies. So we need to be aware of it all and
Mhm.
look at what's being presented and follow what resonates with us and research it further.
Yep, and this comes in like we'll continue on with this because there's this you're going to see that this is going to pop up again into some other things as well. But
Mhm.
as I was perusing through the news and my independent channels and everything like that, I noticed one thing about say that this pandemic uh, virus that's been out there is that that has sort of been pushed now to the sort of the back burner. And the reason this is a theory that's been coming up here in a lot of other channels that why this is sort of being not talked about in the mainstream media as much as it was before, because there's some other stories that have come out that there I always say that when another story comes out, there's some sort of wag the dog sort of phenomena that's there to get away from what the story is. So one of the things is that you have coming up on June 25th, we have the this report that's supposed to go out about what are these alien ships, and all the mainstream medias have been posting this globally around the world. I've
Mhm.
watched a whole whack of them, all about talking about are there really UFOs and waiting for this June 25th report. That's one. Another part that came out here too that more emphasis is being put on there is the Bill Gates divorce and the Bill Gates relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
Mhm.
And I'm going to give you people a couple other little places to go and check because I watched one that was done by Whitney Webb, and it was on. There's a channel. I'm going to give you the ones that are off of YouTube because these are easy. You just go to one's place and you can see them. They're up there right now. You can go and search them on other platforms too as well. But this is just simple. I was just checked these out the other day. One was called off of Slow News Day, episode 310. That was on March 23rd. That it was aired. And another one was the Jason Burmis channel. Whitney Webb explains the Epstein Gates connection, and that was about an hour and 20 minutes. But and she goes into quite a bit of stuff there about these people, like the Gates Foundation involved in vaccines. Okay, and goes in who all these people are, what Epstein's connection is, and people that are in high positions, CIA people, people in government in different countries as well, and who they are all connected to, their foundations, and a lot of these. This word philanthropist keeps on coming around there, and that basically that is just a way for billionaires to hide their money so they don't have to pay taxes on it. That's basically what that is, and there's a lot of philanthropy going around there. But going into this part with this. Gates and Bill and Melinda Gates situation, where this split up happened at I guess it was at the end of last year, going into, and they had mentioned with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that there's three shareholders of that hold the whole that foundation in court, and the third member of that is Warren Buffett, and who is another
Surprise.
billionaire philanthropist,
Surprise.
right?
Surprise.
Right. And so I think the whole part out of this is that you see things that happened in the news, like we had that whole thing with Harvey Weinstein. Remember, I told you about this, and then all of a sudden the Jussie Smollett stuff came out, right? And
Mhm.
then that was the sort of the takeaway with the court case that was going on there. And you're gonna if you watch any of these ones that I've told you, there are people out there listening and go through this. She paints a very good picture with sources, with receipts and everything of who all these people connect to things, their foundations, their companies, what they're involved in, and it goes into the whole part about fentanyl. It goes into the part with lithium mining. It goes into it's widely connected, and it's almost the part there that I've been like we've been talking about many times here is that stuff that's going on in these third world countries where all these testing is getting done, and even here in North America with this medical device that they're jabbing in people is that you've now become the lab rat, the guinea pig.
Mhm.
And this comes into another interesting part, and I'll let you also say on here is that it was okay. Let me see. The UK population. Okay, what was that here? This goes into the whole thing about tracking stuff and being guinea pigs. The UK was tracking its population on social media after the shot jab to study post-vaccination behavioral changes. And then in North America, Google and Oracle to monitor Americans who get Warp Speed's COVID-19 vaccine. And that's from Montsev Slavo, head of the operation for Warp Speed, that he told the Wall Street Journal. So your social media, you're being used and tracked on that to see how you react and how you're moving around after you've gotten this uh, medical device.
Mm-hmm.
Just it goes into there's a lot of stuff with this technocracy, eugenics, tracking of people, Big Brother's watching you. There's a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And I don't know if I sent this video to you or not. There's so much stuff I get sent, or so grateful to be in a couple private groups, messenger groups, where we talk to people from around the world that send stuff. And there is this video that somebody sent me, and it's just part of this. It's so diabolical, all of this. But there is a Japanese woman, and they're speaking Japanese, and she had just received the injectable medical device, we'll call it, and because it was mentioned, and she's laughing, laughing, laughing on video, and it's literally like a light switch was hit on pause. She's like, ha, 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 ha. And they're calling her name, calling her name. And then
Mhm.
all of a sudden, it's like the light switch got flicked back on, and she's like, continues right off where she was. It is the creepiest thing. And there's actually three things I want to mention. There's one more thing I want to mention with this video, but one thing I want to share with people. Hi, Michelle. How are you? Good day from Australia, from Michelle Pratt. And I appreciate her being here to support us. Thanks, Michelle. Glad to see you here. Um, is that if you're new to this, two documentaries that I really strongly recommend are The Fall of the CAB as in Bob AL, and then more importantly, the newer second part called the sequel to The Fall of the CABAL. And the reason why I say this is she goes in so in depth back to the history of all of this. It's the same documentary filmmaker, female from Holland, actually, and she's done her work. That she's claiming this goes back into 1000 AD, and she tracks all the history. There's 17 episodes in the second part. Now I haven't seen the last episode; that's not uploaded yet. But she goes into Bill Gates with so much of a fine tooth comb. She connects the dots between Warren Buffett, all of them. She shows you how little tax, like I believe she said $3 a year, because of all the tax loopholes they all use. They pay no tax. And she calls it money laundering, because what they do, they all have this fictitious address. She tells you where the address is, and it's a different name and a different name and a different name, and all they do is donate to each other's companies, and they keep it within the family.
Mhm.
Well worth the watch. But very quickly, back to this video I was mentioning about the woman that stopped mid laugh. Part of it also was, and this is part of the agenda, is if this medical device that's injected is affecting, and we're seeing a lot of fallout from people who are not receiving the medical device, being around people who have. And we're targeting now 12 to 15-year-olds, giving away free ice cream, free concert
Mhm.
tickets, free whatever. So we don't have to have mom and dad's consent. We don't have to have mom and dad know what's going on. We can just go and do this. Perfect group to do this with, because we all thought we were invincible at that age. But what they're doing with the younger generation is, this article that was shown in this video was New York private school very upset about video being shown. So these are children, probably 5 to almost 7 years old, being shown a cartoon about some creepy lady coming up to two kids in a park, talking about kids' pee-pees and memes, and giving them the
Oh,
proper
geez.
technology words for this, as well as masturbation, talking about this all in cartoon form. And this was shown without the parents' consent to these children. We're also, and I am not anti nor is Del LGBTQ in any way, shape, or form. My oldest son is a member of the community, as is my son-in-law. But what's been sort of thrown out there is if this is affecting kids at this age, and say they don't ever go through puberty, and this transgender narrative is really being pushed on the younger generation, where are we going with all of this? But we're really stressing these pronouns, that we don't use he use he or she, that there's 57 different types of gender. This is all included because think about it. If you give this jab to, say, a 12-year-old female, and it's affecting the way that they're seeing with fertility and things like this, they don't go through puberty, nor does a male. What is your gender? Can you just choose your gender then, when you don't really change into a man from a boy, or a girl into a woman, nor are you capable of reproducing? So there's a lot of
This,
stuff going on. Go ahead.
yep.
Sorry.
Well, this comes into there is a thing that's been passed around through North America to the schools or for the kids to explain. It's called the gender bread man, and it shows yeah. If you look it up online, they're genderbread, and it basically it talks about the difference that there is really no sexuality and all that stuff there, and this is given for little kids to look at, right, to sort of confuse them. And this was actually brought up as a talking point on this, and this goes into this whole part of transhumanism
Mm-hmm.
uh, about dislocation of thought of the mind of being non-gendered and that you can create yourself into whatever you want. And then when you plug in the machine, like being in a sim, you could be whatever character you want to be, right? So it's this whole thing of pre-programming young kids at an age, and this has been going on for a long time. Like
Mm-hmm.
I talked about Joseph Goebbels and stuff like that, and Edward Bernays about how these topics can come up, and these people are like the godfathers of propaganda and how to switch people's in. Right, you tell a
Yep.
lie long enough, the lie becomes true, and you bring these things into the school system or into mainstream television programming like that little kids watch in there, that they're learning that there is no Teletubby gender, and they end up they go into school, they
And
hear
let's
it other
say we're
places.
20 years old, because that came out when our youngest was a baby. You're a stepdad, but when he was a baby, that came out, and he just turned 23. So that's how long ago this started. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well,
Probably,
it's been going on even longer than that too as
I said
well. But
before, yes. Mm-hmm.
and we talked about this before, is that when we were watching the new superhero TV shows, and Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and uh, Batwoman, and the Flash, and all these things where they've really changed the narrative in the show from what it originally was, right? So people don't remember, well, new kids don't really remember what the old one was, the old how these TV shows are, and you've seen this a lot on a lot of mainstream TV shows where they've infused this LGBTQ narrative into something to change it into something different, right, than what it was. They can't create their own
Mm-hmm.
that to stand alone. They have to change something that was a standard beforehand, right, to
Classic.
hijack it in a way.
Mhm. Nope, it was a classic, and I think where it really became apparent was when they tried to turn James Bond into a female character, and women such as myself even. And I don't get me wrong, I'm all for equality and everything, but you don't mess with a classic like that. I mean, the guy was who he was, and as a character, a womanizer, a spy. Why can you not use ingenuity and come up with a female spy with a different name, different personality? Same thing with Ghostbusters. That, I'm sorry, but I believe that was a flop, and I don't even understand why they did it. It was perfect the way it was, and you can't tell me that there's a lack of scripts in television and movies that you can't come up with something original. We've been watching some great programming with newer ideas and script ideas, but why go back to when they don't fix it if it wasn't broken, basically, is my theory.
Well, and that's another part that gets interesting. This goes into this whole thing of censorship, okay? Because this is being a topic that's going on. We're going to see here pretty soon if this Bill C-10 goes through here in Canada,
Mhm.
which basically stops anybody from it basically stops free thought
The
and
government will
news media.
decide what we can watch and if and
Yeah,
include on social media. And
yeah,
if you say something that they've decided you're not allowed to say, there could be large fines or even jail time. What country does that sound very similar to? Where the
yeah.
government
But
controls.
this has been a thing that's been going on for quite a while. Like even in my lifetime, I can only really say for my lifetime. So in my 51 years, I've noticed certain books have been banned. They're not allowed to be shown anymore because of a certain whatever the book was talking about. That you have these action groups, and this is what it would. This is all being taught in colleges, universities, and then these people grow up, they have kids, and they want, hey, we want to censor all this stuff out of here, right? That, so for some reason, they think censorship is great, and like you don't learn anything by hiding what was in the past, right? And so they want to build new. This is all part of this new uh, agenda that's looking about going forward. That this whole part of merging human with machine. That there's been lots of talk about this cyberlink and that you're talking about even with the new vaccines. There's a new rollout with this that they can be able to create a super vaccine that will be able to do with anything. This is like in the works. I believe the U.S. military is, I think, in phase 1 trials of this there as well, and this could maybe eventually roll out later on. But just this whole thing of merging a man with machine, and to go in with this too is that I think we've put a little bit too much dependency on our technology.
Yes.
And I just saw a report that came out there today. And it was a news thing. It said, I think it was May 31st, 2021, Bloomberg. 1/5 of U.S. beef capacity wiped out by JBS cyber attack. So that's already so because some hackers were able to get in and mess with their computers, 1/5 of beef production has stopped in the USA. And this just came out yesterday or the
Yeah,
31st or
but
whatever.
look who's buying all the farmland. This is something else that was covered quite extensively in the sequel to the documentary that I mentioned. And I think this is important to look at. Why is somebody who is a multi billionaire, especially with shares in the medical device that's being injected, and I'm talking about Bill Gates, he's buying tons of farmland. And when you think about it, if somebody controls the farmland, we've already seen what's been happening with GMO seeds, GMO food. Um, and he's talking about that. And we've heard this. There was a commercial on for a long time, and I believe it was on the World Health Organization. And once people got wind of it this year, they removed it. But it was talking about by the year 2030, you'll own nothing and be happy about it. Meat will just be an occasional treat. And you're
Yep.
basically saying, and you'll be happy about it. And he is pushing this fake meat agenda. So when
Hmm.
you own all the farmland, and like you said, look at how easily, and now again, if there's even truth to it, which I believe there probably is, that a cyber hackers got in and hacked. So now 1/5 of the beef supply in the US is gone. So you see where I'm going with this? Are we going to get forced to have to eat this fake meat and everything else?
Yep, that's the whole part of this scripting. It seems to be. This is why like I was saying that uh, when I just turn back into the news again, you see these little things that are going. Like I said, this whole part about UFOs now. That's right. You're getting away from this part of the medical device testing that's on there, right? Usually when, and this is what I wanted to say about this Dr. Hodgkinson, he goes into this whole thing about testing and before certain medical medicines and that are put out into the public, that they go through a long time of years and years of testing to see if there's effects. And we already find it like this. He says you can't give reasons to does this jab affect pregnancy or affect a kid in that because it only just it hasn't even been 9 months yet. You don't have
Yeah,
any information yet.
I agree.
So there's lots of things that are involved. Does it affect? They're finding that these spike proteins build up in uh, in to be excreted through sweat, through your breath and stuff like that, and you can get this uh, the C mimicry sickness. They're finding things like this. So I think this now that we've sort of amassed this little bit of time, and we're seeing out on the news, a lot of this has been sort of uh, looked down at, or been sort of hidden and blocked in that, but you're finding that maybe there is some sort of adverse reactions that are sort of happening here, and they're trying to really cover, I'm not saying they want to cover it up, but they want to uh, shelter it with some new media that's going on, like spaceships and
Well,
Bill
let's
Gates and
go there.
Jeffrey Epstein.
Let's go there with that because we have a few comments here. Abdul, and please forgive me if I don't say your name correctly. Abdullahi Hagar says the aliens invented Corona, and Michelle Pratt said this is where we're heading, the herd, and she said control a virus. So let's talk about this alien thing that supposedly is going to be revealed. All will be revealed. Well, I'm sort of starting to feel like this is a bit of a psyop again, kind of what
Mhm.
we're seeing. You and I have been talking about it. And it's not that we're suspicious of everything, but we've had this conversation privately that we're even seeing psyops within the supposed woken community too. And being a psychic medium as well, I'm very clairaudient. No, I don't hear voices, but I'm in connection with um guides, my guides, everybody has them. And all I keep hearing is talk is cheap. What is up is actually down. But what I take those messages to mean are that anybody can tell you something that you're hungry to hear, and especially if it fits your agenda or your narrative or your belief system. Instead of, and again, I got to give you a lot of credit for this, you said we need to question everything, and we do. We need to step back away from what we want to see, what we want to believe, and really be critical thinkers, I believe, and objective, and look at what everything is being placed before you. um, some things, the truth, no, you won't find out. I believe the truth eventually always will reveal itself. I call it the proverbial back shelf. So when I've got questionable stuff, it sits there. Something will eventually come into my field of vision, if you will, to either refute it, support it, but then I'm still looking. And again, we don't have all the answers, but I'm seeing a lot of people swayed, supposedly people that are awake even, by they're hearing what they want to hear instead of asking critical questioning and using logic. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I've noticed sort of similar things like that. I think part of it is this whole of wearing down people, is that you just like, hey, you're not going to get your freedom back unless you do this, and so I think people, I think some people, not all people, I think some people just, they just cave in and says, okay, I'll just do this, not even just foregoing anything, I guess, reasonable logic on why you would be doing something like that, right? And sometimes it's pure pressure, and sometimes it's just the, okay, well, I'll just live with it and just keep on going, and hopefully things will
Yeah,
get
but you
better.
have to ask, stepping back, where in the history of our lifetimes have we seen free food, free fries, free whatever if you do it? Or in the US, that they're running a contest right now. If you get it, five of you are going to win them at $1 million.
Yeah,
Where
I
in,
seen.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I seen another one that was there, is that they were giving free day passes to I can't remember what it was, Cedars or some amusement
Yeah.
park there. If you came in and got the shot or the jab there, you got a pass for a free day at the amusement park, and that was for kids between the ages, I think, 10 and 17 or something like that, right? That's the whole thing about foregoing your parents having
Prizes for agreeing to go along with the narrative of your government. And if you're in a democratic society, and I'm talking about an ideal situation, the people choose their leaders, and the leaders do the bidding of the people that, not the bidding, but I mean, that you're supposed to be representing what the majority of the people want. Here we've got our leaders giving away carrots and dangling them in front of your nose. And then if that's not enough, let's throw on a whole year's supply of carrots too, if you do it.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right, and we've talked about this, touched on this many times before. There is that government is not supposed to be a parent. Government is supposed to be there to make sure your borders are safe, make sure your infrastructure is maintained, make sure you have good relations with other countries in that. And we've seen the ball drop hugely by our fearless leader there, JT and the Sunshine Band. Like even during this whole time since the lockdown started, there was still continued flights in from foreign countries coming in droves of people coming in from infected countries. And you're going, what kind of leadership or what kind of thinking is that in the first place? Like, we're good here, and then you keep on bringing in immigrants into the country that could be
No, but
infected.
here's about, because it's the other thing I encourage people to do is take a look at your news sources, your mainstream media, and see who funds it. Our
Yeah.
news sources in Canada are 100% funded by the government. So we're going to hear the government narrative. But I know we're almost running out of time, and I really wanted to touch, and again, I know it's your show, but we were going to touch on it. So what do you think of what's going to be revealed with the UFOs and the alien thing agenda?
Well, I think this is what's going to happen. There's probably going to be a couple more videos that'll be brought out, and that there's a possibility, and it'll be undetermined as of yet. And that's what it's going to be. We have to keep on going for another little while till we can get a clear answer, because I think we talked about this on the panel show too, as well, is that if it ends up being that, yes, it comes out, yes, aliens are real, and it shows up that the government have been working with these alien races that are here, you're going to have to wonder about what's the impact going to be with all these people that were abducted and experimented on, right? If the government knew this whole time that this was actually going on and they allowed it to happen, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of different little scenarios that could sort of run around with
I
this,
don't
right?
think it's going to happen because the CIA already supposedly gave everything they had on UFOs and ETs and usual alphabet soup organizations. No video was released, no photos were released, and pretty well most of the stuff was redacted, which I've seen some of the documents. So what did it really tell you? Nothing. That's classified. That's classified. That's why it's redacted. And this is all we have. BS, that's all you have, because we know video exists. We know that photo exists. So to me, I think this is just something else to get people to turn their heads in a different direction while you don't notice the little man behind the curtain, what's really happening as per the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, when there's another part that I think there was going to be, well, this was supposed to be the big disclosure this year too, but on other sites there as well, they were talking about is that this is the whole thing about bringing this technology in and this cyber stalking and Big Brother watching you on your Facebook, social media, and that, and basically minority reporting the population. Is
Mhm.
that there was talk about that during the course of this year, there's going to be an increase in cyber attacks, and like even with this part with the beef there, the company went and paid the ransom
Yeah,
to get
I've
your
been
stuff up.
hearing that. Yeah, a lot of them are paying the ransom because they get
Right.
infected with ransomware. Hmm.
Yeah. So they've done that, and it's supposed to be that's supposed to be a an increase of stuff going on during the course of this year. And you got Skylink or Sky Starnet or can't remember that all the little satellites that's going to be having 5G up in the air that give you better signals, but it also gives them better cameras to go and watch what's going down on the ground, right? This whole
Hmm.
thing. You think by getting this increased technology is supposed to be a benefit in that, but you also have to look at the con of it there too, is that it also gives uh, these alphabet soup companies and everybody that's involved in this stuff there gives them more access to your privacy, and
Hmm.
that's going to be a big thing there. And if these some of these laws that start going through here, like I think there one was the one that went in the States was the Patriot Act, but I think there's also another one here in Canada too as well, where they can go and pick you up there if they figure that you're a domestic terrorist as well. So it gives them more ease of access to get into your privacy, your private emails. Like I told you the story about uh, I was sending a private message in Facebook to a friend of mine, and I added a picture of Nina Hartley in black lingerie. There was no nudity in the picture at all. I think I think it had a little caption and said porn.com up there, but no nudity in this picture at all. I attached the picture and I sent it to my friend, and as soon as I hit send, 1 second later, Facebook goes, you are banned off of Facebook, or you're in Facebook jail for 2 weeks. And I was like, what? I said, this is a private message. This wasn't even posted to the
Yeah.
page or anything. This is a private message. And 1 second after I hit send, I was already put in Facebook jail for 2 weeks. And that's a pretty scary thing. Like I don't even think he got the message yet, but they had already put me in jail for something like that. And that's a really scary thing to see how things are heading. Like
Mhm. Or we've seen like Michelle Pratt ads from Australia. Channel 7 here in Australia had a show Saturday night, I think, talking about the whole things that we're talking about. And then she added the phenomenon spotlight was interesting. Basically, talking to USA Air Force, and they said no idea what they are, meaning UFOs and ETs and the tic tac, she says. And I'm going to back up a little bit about what you were saying, that we saw those videos that went viral from Australia, that woman that was pregnant, that there was going to be a gathering of people. She was not inciting the gathering, nor did she start it. And what happened? Thank goodness her partner filmed it. And you guys also had a member of your previously with the military. Again, all he did was talk about the protests, which were peaceful. He had the same thing happen, and this came from social media. So I don't think people realize this, because this just gets me when people are practically telling everybody when they've gone to the bathroom and every fight they've had and every argument and every meal and what they're shopping for. That's way too much information to be putting out there. What do you think?
yeah, that's I think that it's you have to really watch. I think now what you're putting out on social media, because that is going to be used against you.
Mhm.
And I remember this podcast I watched with Be Real from Cypress Hill. It was on a Joe Rogan podcast about a couple of years ago. And he was flying from another country back into the States. Excuse me. And
Bless you.
he gets into the airport, and he's pulled aside for inspection, right? And he's okay. This is really weird. This has never ever happened before. And he has a podcast. They smoke dope on and stuff like that, and they talk about world issues and that. And he flies. He goes away, goes into another country, comes back, pulled into inspection again.
Mhm.
And this happens like 2 or 3 times, and he's going, "This is getting really weird." So there was a young security guy that was doing the inspection, and he sort of let it slip. He asked me, he says, "Am I on a blacklist or a red list, the inspection list, and that?" And the guy let it slip. Yeah, he is. He says, "Well, why? I have never been accused of bringing drugs or anything like that, or weapons or anything across the border." He says, "Do you have a social media account where you talk about things?" And he go, "Yeah, I have a podcast talk about this." That's the reason you're being pulled in every single time.
And this is before this all started that we were aware of this. So even the fact of the podcast I was just on, we were talking about that this 6 foot rule, and depending on what country you live in, it changes. Okay, distancing from one another, so you can't talk. That was just an arbitrary number that was chosen because I welcome people. Dell and I both say this. You don't have to trust what we're saying. Please go ahead. If something resonates with you, go do your own research. We want people to do more research. But when you look at that, what we're talking about in the way of aerial transmission of anything, it's not 6 feet. It's like some droplets can go up to 60 feet. So, what they're looking at is if this is part of tracking, is you need to be about 6 feet apart because if you're in groups, the AI isn't going to be able to differentiate who is who, right?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different theories about that, but oh, we're getting close to our time here,
No,
Laura.
that went by too quick.
But there was a buffet for two. I hope everybody out there had a fill of something out there that they probably do enjoy or didn't enjoy. It really doesn't matter because it's all just food for thought out there.
Mhm.
So I want to thank you very much, Laura Lee. I want to tell them about your shows there and where they can find you.
Thanks, Del. Thanks for having me. So I'm Lorilei Potvin, and I have a show called The Angel Rock on Monday nights here right on United Public Radio Network from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern. And I have people from all walks of life that through either their work or even extracurricular activities that they're making a positive change for humanity. And I cover all aspects of the supernatural, anywhere from the paranormal to ETs to some of the stuff we discussed, as well as power of the mind, chakras, how to open your third eye. If you ever want to get a hold of me, you can find me on facebook.com/, the Angel Rock. If you've got any questions, comments, show ideas, or maybe you want to book a reading with me or some healing sessions. And thanks for having me, Del.
Awesome. And also, you can also check both of us out there. Usually, we're on Friday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern for the host chat, and there's another host chat which is on the Mondays, I believe, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, and we're
Paranormal.
usually on there. Sometimes not all the times, but we take part in those as well. And you've been watching a delicious recipe here on UPRN 107.7 FM, New Orleans Talk Radio, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Have a good one. We're still live. Thanks,
Okay.
everybody. Chat, guys.
We'll just chat around till he shows back up again there. Usually he
It's,
comes in a 1 or 2
maybe it's gonna
seconds.
let us go longer. So, um, yeah, we don't have a show tonight afterwards, but we should be back hopefully next week with our regular programming following Dell's show. So we're really glad that we had your the Michelle said good show. So thanks so
Oh
much.
yeah, I see that there. Thank you. Yeah,
We appreciate you being here. So I think Joe is gone to have some chocolate.
there you go.
He probably thought we were going to go a little longer, maybe, so we can chit
Hmm.
chat while we're waiting. So,
Okay, so what was another part that I was talking about here? Oh yeah, so there was the pre-crime censorship, eugenics and technocracy, the Starlink, the 5G satellites. Well, that's the thing there too, is that a lot of these people that are creating these medical devices that are making decisions, they're eugenicists. They believe in eugenics and they believe in technocracy, and they're looking at this part of merging human with machine. And I think there's this big talk about with the AI to reach singularity. And I was watching on one of these shows there is that they had I think one of these supercomputers that was hooked up to the part of the internet.
mhm,
And with this is that the amount of data that it was absorbing in there, this thing was a the AI was a freak, right? Because a lot of people post garbage on the internet, right? So it's
yeah,
taking all this different stuff
yeah,
there. It wasn't being like a smart, intelligent supercomputer.
mhm,
And I was thinking about before the show when we were talking about this, I was remembering the Silver Surfer comic book,
yes,
and there's the Kree Skrulls, the Kree and the Skrulls, two alien races, and I believe it's the Kree.
mhm,
Their leader is called the Supreme Intelligence, and it was a huge AI computer. That's who ran the whole planet, and ran the population. And I think there some of these people, these billionaires that are investing in this, they're looking for
mhm.
this AI that's going to give them all the answers to maybe the
Or the
universe.
Borg from Star Trek. That's the
Yeah.
hive mind.
Hmm.
Or I just seen something before we went live, but I wasn't able to watch it. It said is as I always tease Joe, that's his boy crush, Elon Musk secretly trying to warn us because he's spoken very openly about how dangerous AI can actually be. He
Hmm.
has. Hmm.
Well, that comes into another part about this with Elon Musk and dealings with Epstein and Bill Gates and other people. They're all these, like we said, all these billionaires are connected to share money around and to make things better for themselves, right? There's this is the whole thing of this tiered class, right? The very wealthy and then the peons at the bottom, right? That can be bossed
Comment.
around. But
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry. I was going to comment on that, but I wanted to answer Michelle very quickly. She's wondering
yeah,
if Organite will help balance out the jab baddies. It's not necessarily to help. They don't know much about what actually will, if anything, help balance it out. But what Organite can help with, I'm actually working on that myself because I do a lot of resin that I'll be putting up. But what they're thinking, and I have some Organite from a friend of mine that I'm going to be making something not the same, but this is actually Organite for those of you maybe that haven't seen it, and it's got metal filings as well as crystals and many other things in here to help absorb, if you will, some of the EMF. And if you watch Dr. Carrie Made or Made, it's called the Five Docs. I believe you can find it on BitChute. And she's talking about this because she's bought an EMF meter, and she said her smartphone has doubled in EMF radiation output in the last 6 months with no change. Never mind that we've got this 5G network coming. So, and you got to look because we're seeing a lot of videos out there, and it's not just a few anymore. It is a ton of them of people that are actually sticking magnets on their body all
yeah,
over.
yeah. I've looked at that a few. I've seen a bunch of videos, TikTok videos of people doing that, and I've seen people with RFID or radio frequency detectors and that, and going around their house and then going over and putting it on the arm where they got
Mhm.
the jab
Some
in.
people are turning
And
off their TVs with it.
yeah, see, the thing that comes into that part there, unless I really saw that in person myself to really witness that, because there's a lot of fakery that goes out on
I,
the
I,
internet. Like, there's one guy that had, he was saying, I think he's in Canada, and
mhm,
he was saying that every time that he goes to connect his Bluetooth, his
mhm,
body goes connecting to AstraZeneca, right? And then he walks by and it keeps on asking to connect his body and he doesn't connect, right, and then he goes towards one of those plasma digital TVs, and
mhm.
as he walks up to the TV, it goes Bluetooth wanting to connect to AstraZeneca, and there's a
Yeah.
whole code part there. And so I don't know if that's all fake, that they're doing that for a video or anything like
Mhm.
that, right, to say that this whole thing about nanobots and creating a molecular computer inside
On
the
the
body.
joke,
But
try to connect to AstraZeneca, but
yeah,
yeah,
so it's just sort of an interesting thing. Maybe it's a play on something or someone just fooling around, but it'd be interesting to see if that's actually true. But even with that part with the magnets, there I watched several news places in the States saying, "Hey, if this has happened to you, please be in contact. We'll come over there and we'll do it ourselves with a science experiment to see if this is actually true." And nobody's phoned any of these news organizations with
yeah,
this magnet problem yet. So
yeah,
you have to,
that we know of.
yeah. So you sort of have to put that there in the wonder category.
Actually, Michelle just said we have to sign in to every shop here in our state in Australia. So bloke taps his head and tells the shop assistant he just logged in. LOL. I love it.
Well, you gotta look at what was being done there in Sweden with in putting that chip in your hand, right? So you could open up doors and get snacks from the vending machine and in the business and that. And that was a talk about stuff that was going on. I think we talked about this about a year and a half ago about RFID implants putting into your body, and how and it's mostly these new or these younger generation, I guess, post millennial and stuff like that, that think this is a great idea, right? I don't have to carry around all this extra stuff. But you're finding out that if something can be hacked as easily as 1/5 of the beef production in the states, and you're hooked up to a system, how easily can it be that you can be hacked, right? Like
Or
somebody
who
has to get.
owns you? Because you're no longer, right? If you've got some kind of device in you or even within your system, and this is something again, and no, I'm not on a Dr. Carrie Madej kick, but she really has been talking about this since the beginning of all this. And she's been very right about a lot of the stuff she's mentioned that was coming, that has come. Um, but part of it is, and I forget the gentleman's name, she says it in many of her interviews that he was pro transhumanism, and there is some type of legislation out there, I believe in the US. I don't know about the rest of the world, but he was pro for this. It's either coming or it is in place, where if I believe what she was saying was the Supreme Court ruled against being able to own any human if you've got complete human things. But if you've got something within your human body that is going throughout your system that can be patented, technically somebody could patent you. She starts talking about all the coding they're supposed to be putting in these chips and all kinds of stuff. And I believe her because she's been right about a lot of stuff. Hmm.
Well, that comes into the crazy part, and this is the deal that I think people should be very wary about. Is they're talking about it here in Canada, it was going to a non-monetary system, right, where everything was on some sort of card, electronic digital currency, and this ends up being a scary thing when hacks can happen so easily that you can actually have your whole entire bank account wiped out, your you can have all your information. I think it was that movie that was Enemy of the State
Hmm.
that with Will Smith there, where they just manipulated all of his
Hmm.
technical footprint and just basically almost make somebody disappear and wipe out all your finances and that. And if you, if there's going to be more and more cyber hacks, what they supposedly supposed to be, you have to wonder what other things are going to be affected here. Like we're just going through this major pandemic of shutdowns and stuff like that. And here in Ontario, they're looking at that they can keep on maintaining this till the end of December. You got to look at businesses, supply chains. Everything has a domino trickle effect. With something's not coming from this place to get to this place that makes that,
Hmm.
you don't get the final product, right? And that goes globally for a lot of things.
Well, I think it's like anything on this planet that everything is in a delicate balance. And whether you do it with nature, and we've seen this, we've seen Australia's got the cane toads, we've seen what is it, the silverhead carps that are
Yeah.
here. Okay, so that's nature. But you're right. Even with it doesn't matter what it is on this planet, when you remove a tier of something that's balanced, it has a domino effect, like you said, and it filters down into ways that a lot of people don't even imagine until they're affected by it.
Yeah, there was a interesting thing I watched just before the show. It was on Woodward TV, and it was talking about that the the virus didn't isn't causing the recession or the shipping problems and stuff like that, right? It's the part that these shutdowns, these little things that market sort of demanded stuff, right? If you're not producing something, this other place doesn't make it, and if they're not making it, it doesn't get shipped to this thing. So you get this backlog of stuff that people are waiting for things. And like
Mhm,
if we look at what we had to with the Amazon Prime thing that we talked about several times on here, like they're supposed to be like next day shipping or shipping in 2 days.
mhm,
Like what did I ordered that wetsuit at May 3rd and it's
mhm.
coming tomorrow. That's over
Well,
a
I
month.
have something that I ordered at the end of March, beginning of April, and it's still not here. Another thing that I ordered, I tried AliExpress and Wish, and things turned out not too bad, but I've heard varying reports. But except for one thing that wasn't coming, all the updates were coming in Chinese. Thank God I had to use Google Translate. And so I check it and it says returned to sender. So I write the gut person last night and say, what, do you know what's going on with my order? Oh, yes, dear, as they always call you, dear. Just wait, just to wait a little longer. I will extend the shipping timer because it counts down and then you can open a dispute. And I said, no, don't extend it. And then I said, oh, so then I knew they didn't even bother to plug in the tracking number. So I actually sent them a copy of what was in Chinese. And all of a sudden they went, oh, oh, we are so sorry for that. So they didn't even know it had been returned. And they were going to send me something else out again. Well, then they had to message me back and tell me it's sold out and can they give me my money back? I still haven't heard back. But the whole thing is, unless you dig, it seems like it doesn't matter what it is. You have to dig to get to the bottom of things and find the truth because, like I said earlier, talk is cheap. People tell you what you want to hear. A lot of people would have been satisfied with that and said, "Oh, okay, I'll wait a little longer." No, because I did my own digging and my own research, and I basically caught them in their own lie. And I'm not saying everybody's lying. What I'm saying is, and you've really taught me this living with you all these years, is you need to be an objective, critical thinker, step back, take the emotion out of it, and take a look all around you using different sources to see and try and discern what the truth is.
Hmm. Yeah, that's an
Hmm.
important thing to do. Yeah,
Hmm.
but that like even that part with that with the Amazon thing that I found
Hmm.
so amazing about that is that they will list you all the shipping parts and where it goes through. And
Yeah.
I found this out when I called them the a month and a half ago, and it says, okay, well they go, well, we haven't received the shipment yet. I says, well, you have it there that you have received it. It says, no, we haven't received it. It's from this place. So I call this place, and they go, oh yeah, we haven't received the shipping yet. It says, well, you already have that you've received it. Oh no, we just printed out the shipping label. That's all we received was the label. We haven't received the product. It says, well, how can you go and tell me that it's going to arrive here tomorrow if you haven't even uh, arrived it in the first place? And like I said, what's going on here? Like this is like false advertising or
Or
fraud
that
in a
they're
way.
for sale on the site saying they're
Yeah,
available and there's so many left and yet nobody's got them. I hear you. And I
yeah.
guess
It says you.
everybody so oh, go ahead, Doc. Sorry.
No, I just say same. This is you can't go and mark something that is preparing to be shipped if you haven't received it yet, and you're right that you can't say that and then have it like only one left, right? So now you're telling people to buy it, like you just said, telling people to buy it, but you don't even have it in stock,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Like, so how do you know there's only one left if you don't even have that in stock?
Yeah,
Like that,
exactly.
that makes no sense, right?
Mhm.
But that's just the way it goes, I
I
guess.
think Joe's
Yes,
forgotten about us. We might have to text him.
you know, give them a little texty there.
I will, because Michelle, I'll read her comment. She said maybe the smart dust and black goo wasn't enough to gain control. LOL. Good point, Michelle. All right, I'll text him because I think he thought probably we're going to go longer. We didn't ask him, so we'll see what he has to say. I'll message him. Hang on. We know he's there if he's messing around in the background. I don't see him. I'll say I'll say we are all done. All done. Unless you maybe wants us to go longer. I don't know.
Yeah.
You want us
Well,
to go
there's
longer? Go ahead.
there's other things there to like just noticing like I said like the whole part of the show there's this whole wag the dog situation
Yeah.
or why are certain things being talked about in media now and other things aren't, right? It's not that they like you have a story that's been going on for a whole year and you have a president that's talking about getting up to 2 million per day or whatever it is shots, and you got this one here in Canada, and then you got stuff that's expiring somewhere else, but we're accepting it over here and we're taking it. Like there's so much things that are that don't make sense with what's being pumped out in the media or being talked about in the government.
Excuse me. No, it doesn't. And again, I mean, we're being very careful about what we're saying. We don't need any issues with this channel, so we can keep building it up. And make sure you guys tell your friends to come and check out our wonderful. I always forget to mention that. Be sure to tell your friends to come check out our great programming. We've got something for everybody in UPRN. But back to this discussion, you were absolutely right. Like, I mean, there's so much to discuss, but when you go back and you actually look at the history of all this,
Mhm.
including we both had Paul Anthony Wallace on, that is there even a bigger agenda than the human agenda, meaning UFOs and aliens? Like, is this associated with something off world too? Hard to
Yeah, I don't know. There's lots of things like if you look at what was talked about at that World Forum there with Schwab, and then you look at about that Agenda 2030, and
Mhm,
I think I even had that written down there of all the points that were put into that commercial
mhm,
about how they wanted to see life looking to be in by 2030. And you have, like I said, we have our PM here in Canada that has made different things forcing that direction. It's sort of really amazing.
Or how much he loves China. There's so much video out there, how much he respects it, he admires it. I'm
Yeah.
probably not wording it correctly, but basically, like, he is a fan. And if we didn't have independent news sources, we wouldn't have found out a lot of the documents that were leaked to them. So, or I have to give a shout out even to Project Veritas for what they're doing out there too, to get people to speak. Oh, UFO Paranormal Radio, meaning Joe says Donald Trump is moving to Canada to make it great again. Is that so, Joe? I'll take him over Mr. Pink Pants.
Yeah. Yeah, never know. Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't think that'd be a great plan there either. So I think he
no,
was good for doing for what he had to do, but other than that, I
yes,
don't see any benefit there.
something's got to give. Are you there, Joe? I think he is.
Okay, we can wrap this up. Take two. So
Yeah,
thank you very much for people for tuning in to the delicious recipe, and I thank my guest there, Lorilei Puffin of the Angel Rock.
thank
And
you.
we'll see you guys all next week.
See you next week.